Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number one, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number two, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers can be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum in the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyze the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Gart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Great to be back with you for our midweek edition of the show. Plenty to recap from the NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball from last night. Some series coming to an end in the NBA and a couple more extended, so we'll get to the very latest there. Also, news and updates from the world of sports betting. An update on the state of Hawaii and their pursuit to legalize sports betting. We'll bring in Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report to discuss that as well. Also, Dexter Henry previews tonight's games in the National Basketball Association. And our good friend Rich Rosa has a lot going on. This week is the Kentucky Derby, and our daily racing form shows are off and running. We'll have a preview of the race a little bit later and also tell you how you can get interactive with the Kentucky Derby just by watching our shows here on SportsGrid today, tomorrow, and, of course, on Saturday, and the Run for the Roses, Saturday afternoon at Churchill Downs. So that and a whole lot more on this edition of NewsWire. Thanks for sticking with us here on the show. Let's start entertaining, so to speak. Well, not entertaining news to begin, especially for those of you who are watching at, 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning in Hawaii. I doubt you really are. But if you're streaming the show at a different time slot, unfortunately, it looks like you're not going to get sports betting there anytime soon. What happened? So much positivity for the possibility of legalizing sports betting in Hawaii, but efforts to legalize came to a close as House Bill 1308 failed to pass because of disagreements between the House and Senate. Also included the number of operators allowed, the tax rate, licensing fees, and some specific financing details. So Hawaii residents certainly will have to wait at least until 2026 to get this passed. The rest of the year, including football season, does not appear to be a possibility. So where will the next state to legalize sports betting come from? At this point, I don't know. Here's what I do know. The Denver Nuggets take a 3-2 series lead in their best-of-7 series in the first round of the NBA playoffs, and it was a blowout, 131-115. It was all Jamal Murray in this one, even though the Joker had a triple-double, 13, 10, and 12 from him. It was Murray with 43 points and 7 assists in this game, as now they will head back to Los Angeles, and the Clippers will have to win Game 6 in order to force a Game 7, but Jamal Murray, after a 43-point night, says they're well on their way.
We just played hard and played with physicality and played fast and played with a lot of confidence, a lot of conversations going on between each other, clearing up what we want to do and what we're trying to look for. So, everything really it was a really good team win. Everybody did a job tonight.
I thought, like I said, a tough start was Jamal Murray. I thought he came out being aggressive, which we knew he would. You know, that's why we started off with a blitz against him, just to try to slow him down. We knew in Game 5 he would come out aggressive, and he made every shot. You know, pull-up threes, mid-range. You know, we blitzed him, we dropped, we switched, we did a lot of different coverages, but he had a hell of a game, you know, and so as far as us, just like I said, defensively, just having that presence to start the game, you know, I think the last, 3 games or so, they've been really attacking to start the game early, and so we got to be better with that, especially on the road, but they play well, they play great, you know, holding Joker to 13 points and losing the game is tough, you know, but that's how he beats you. You know, if you worry about him too much, other guys can beat you. But I just thought Jamal Murray was excellent tonight.
Career game for Jamal Murray in the playoffs. Now let's get to the Celtics and Orlando Magic. That series is officially over in 5 games. Boston blows out Orlando last night, 120-89. So they will be moving out on to the second round of the playoffs. No surprise here. Jason Tatum with a huge game, 35 points. 8 rebounds and 10 assists. Pablo Banchero had a series for the Magic, and they do have a bright future. Just basically went up against a better team. Banchero had 19 points. Celtics outscored the Magic 36-13 in the third quarter. Jason Tatum discussing all the different ways the Celtics can beat you.
Right. Really trying to take our threes away, switching everything, you know, basically inching out, not helping. So, you know, it was tough. Just from like a assist and playmaking standpoint, they just weren't really opportunities because they were just, you know, leaving guys on the island. So just whatever the game called for. Tonight it opened up a little bit more. They went zone. They had some different matchups out there, so they, you know, had to play a little differently. So I was able to, you know, try to play make and distribute a little bit more today. But yeah, they just kind of forced us to play a little differently.
I mean, they opened the game up. But I mean, that's what happens. You know, if I'm able to be in the game, that doesn't happen. You know, we was playing well, but it wasn't in the cards for us.
It has been in the cards for the Detroit Pistons. What a series they've put together against the New York Knicks. They're headed now to a Game 6 after they take care of the Knicks 106-103. Cade Cunningham, 24 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. And yeah, the Knicks still lead in the series, but who knows? I mean, this thing could end up going 7 games. It was a quiet one for Jalen Brunson. Feels like unless he goes off, they don't win. 16 points, 7 assists, but he shot just 4 of 16 from the field. Meanwhile, the Pistons are feeling really good about themselves. And as JB Bickerstaff said after the game, building a culture of winning has been the key.
The personality and character of this group. And I'm not surprised, right? Like, this is what they've always shown to be, and this is what we expected from them tonight.
How much composure did you see down the stretch in what could be a situation where some teams come around?
I mean, I think we did a great job of getting to our spots and executing the stuff we knew we could get to. That created an advantage for us. You know, but I think it all started with Asar and his defense. He was phenomenal defensively tonight. Offensively, obviously, to come up with the 22 points. But, you know, I think it started with his defense, and a lot of credit should be given to him.
Tom, when you had Jalen and Josh there on the scores table waiting to check and get in, what was the thought process of not calling a timeout or not getting them back in the game as that lead kind of went up?
Just where we were with our timeouts, coach's decision.
Your overall thoughts on the officiating today?
It is what it is.
A lot of complaining from Thibodeau with the refs, for sure. All right, no complaining here. Indiana Pacers better than Milwaukee Bucks. Great game, though, I will say, last night. 119-118, the final. The Bucks were up, folks. 7 points with 40 seconds left. But they couldn't close it out. They go into overtime. Pacers go on a 8-0 run to win the series. Some of this was overshadowed a little bit by 2 different storylines. The first being Tyrese Halliburton's dad running on the court after the game, going at Giannis verbally. The other story maybe is Giannis playing his last game in Milwaukee. Here's Rick Carlisle on the comeback.
You know, what happened in the overtime, we were down 7 with 40 seconds. Nemhard hits the three. We get a steal. Ty gets an and one, and then we got fortunate. They had a mishandle, and we got the ball, and Ty made the play to win the game. And neither team had a timeout. I mean, both teams literally left every single ounce of everything they had out there, including timeouts, and nobody had anything left.
But I thought the turnovers obviously were huge, and 2 of the 3 were really unforced. But I thought we had 2 huge defensive mistakes that we didn't make. We came out of the timeout with a foul to give. We're supposed to use it, didn't use it. Those are the things that just kill you. And I think that ended up in a Halliburton 3-point play on that one. So, these games, they'll kill you.
Yep, they did for the Bucks yesterday. Good news for the Sacramento Kings. They've decided to retain Doug Christie as their head coach. He was interim coach previously. He now will stick around after going 27-24 this season under Christie. Also, by the way, the NFL has just announced in the last hour that they are going to indeed fine coordinator Jeff Ulbrich $100,000 for failing to prevent the disclosure of confidential information. You may remember it was Ulbrich's son who prank called a couple of players in the National Football League telling them that they had been drafted. So $100,000 for them. Also, Falcons fined $250,000. We'll be right back.
Is so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum, and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyze the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Dart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Cosmo was supposed to fight Ciaran Clark, but he had to pull off injury. You get the call. You get to go in there. What was it like for you when you got that call, jumping in there and be part of this bantamweight tournament on short notice?
Terrifying, man. 2 weeks notice against a stud, but I've been preparing my whole life for it, and I couldn't say no to the opportunity, and saw what happened. I came in there and kind of shocked the world. Not kind of, I did.
Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers can be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's our daily dose of soccer with Kyle Bonn from Sporting News. Going to preview the Champions League semifinal, also Premier League coming to a close. We'll dive also into Inter Miami as well with Messi and company. Great to have Kyle back on the show once again. Kyle, thanks for coming on. All right, so let's dive in. We got a semifinal game set to go off a little bit later today, so we'll have a preview of that. But before we do, we learned the final yesterday between Arsenal and PSG. Tell us about the match, the outcome, and certainly, is there a chance for PSG to move forward even beyond this?
Yeah, so the first leg went towards PSG. They won 1-0 in London at the Emirates against Arsenal, and it was a really, really intriguing game. I thought beforehand this was going to be a fun one, and it was. ish. Ousmane Dembele scored 4 minutes in, and you thought, oh boy, here we go. PSG, one of the best attacks in the world. They were absolutely cooking Arsenal for the first 20 minutes. It really felt like PSG were going to take control of this game and win in a landslide, and it just sort of never happened. Arsenal kind of got control of the game a little bit right before halftime, got their feet under them, and then really were the better team in the second half. Both teams missed chances to put themselves in a much better position. PSG missed a couple of chances late in the game that they could have put the game away and really put the score line away heading into the second leg at home. And Arsenal missed a few chances soon after halftime to really put themselves back in it. So you're sort of now hanging in the balance a little bit with this 1-0 score. PSG up and going home for the second leg. They obviously are going to be considered the favorites. But now there's some questions about Ousmane Dembele's health. He went down with what looked like a muscle injury late in the second half, and he's been the best player on this PSG team this year. I mean, they're an unbelievable team. They've got a ton of good players. Kavicha Kvaratskhelia is on the team now. He joined in January and has been fantastic. He had Jurrien Timber on roller skates yesterday. And Desiree Doué has been amazing. Bradley Barcola coming off the bench has been excellent. That whole attack is great. The midfield's great. But Dembele's the star. He's really in position to challenge for the Ballon d'Or this year. And he pulls up late, and you think, oh no, that's tough for PSG. Now they might have to go into this second leg protecting a 1-0 lead without their best player. Well, it turns out he might be okay. It sounds like it might have just been cramps or something minor. So that's one to monitor going forward. It's going to be really, really important to keep an eye on his health going forward into this second leg. We'll hear more from Luis Enrique, the head coach, before their weekend league game. So that will be something to watch. But we want to keep an eye on that injury status coming into the second leg because a lot's going to hinge on Dembele's health moving forward.
All right, fair enough. Now, 3:00 Eastern, we will get the semifinal of another match, which, of course, is Barcelona against Inter. Right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook, we have Barcelona minus 160. What do you think? Is this the blowout of the semifinal here?
I really don't think so, Craig. Inter's been the best defensive team in Europe this season. I don't know how much that's going to count for in this game. I don't know if it will get them a result, but I certainly think that they can keep a lid on the match and then get it home for the second leg relatively intact. I think I see a Barcelona 1-0 or 2-0 victory in this game. I don't think they'll blow Inter out. And if Inter can go home with the game within reach, I think they'll be happy. Simone Inzaghi is an exceptional coach. The problem here for Inter are a couple of injuries. Marcus Thuram and Denzel Dumfries both have minor injuries. They're both expected to be in the squad, but it's unclear if they're able to start or not. And if they can't start, those are big losses for Inter because they're going to be playing on the counter against a really high-octane Barcelona attack. And if they don't have those two players who are really key to getting forward quickly, that might stunt their ability to provide a dangerous threat on the counter. Now, on the other side of things for Barcelona, they do not have Robert Lewandowski at striker. He is a really, really important player. He's 36 years old, and he's really just kind of morphed into a pure number 9 penalty area finisher. But he's still important to this team. Now, Ferran Torres, his backup, has been excellent this year, but he presents a very significant stylistic change for Barcelona up front, and it's going to completely change how they play this game. And sometimes with a player who's younger and can move a lot, they can get clogged when things can get clogged when they're playing with Lamine Yamal and Rafinha, who also like to run a lot at their defenders. So it's a big stylistic change for Barcelona. We'll see how they attack it. But I think with Ferran Torres at the attack, Barcelona may play into Inter's defensive style a little bit, and that could put a lid on this game. So I'm on the under here. And I think you can get some pretty good value on the under for this game. I also really like taking the Barcelona goal on FanDuel. You can get Barcelona goalkeeper to make 3+ saves. Wojciech Szczesny has not been tested a lot this year, but the times he has been tested, he's been quite good. And Inter can get forward on the counter, especially if Thuram and or Dumfries do end up starting. I think they could test the goalkeeper a little bit. So while they're not a terribly efficient team with finishing, I don't think they'll score goals, but they should get a couple of shots on target. And I think you can get some value there.
Over to the Premier League, love it or hate it, Kyle. Relegation season is here. Who is relegated for next year?
Yeah, both of the races at either end of the table are over mathematically. So at the top, you've got Liverpool. They're done. They've won the title. At the other end, you've got Ipswich Town, Leicester City, and Southampton going back down. At the bottom end of the table, like you mentioned, I think it's relatively interesting because now you've got 2 seasons in a row where the 3 promoted teams have gone right back down. I don't think there's a problem on the Premier League's hands right now, but if it goes 3 years in a row next season, I think there's a real issue that the Premier League needs to look at, which is there enough of a financial gap between the established Premier League teams and those coming up to where we need to figure something out to make it a little more parity? I don't think they're at that situation yet, but we could see some changes maybe in the future if this continues. The only race left in the Premier League right now is the race for the Champions League places. There are 5 Champions League places available in the Premier League, and there's clubs that are fighting for the last 3 spots. So that's really going to be interesting down the stretch.
All right, Kyle. Great stuff as always. Great analysis. We'll keep an eye on that match day at 3 o'clock Eastern and catch up again soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.
All right, Kyle Bonn from Sporting News here with us. Coming up next, couple of games in the National Basketball Association tonight. We'll bring in Dexter Henry and break it all down for you, see if we can get some winners. Also, stick around because the Kentucky Derby is coming up, of course, on Saturday, and we've got some great wall-to-wall coverage on SportsGrid. Rich Rosa from Daily Racing Form is going to join us to tell you a whole lot more how you can stream us. So stay on the grid. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Is so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyzed the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Dart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Cosmo was supposed to fight Ciaran Clark, but he had the pull-up injury. You get the call. You get to go in there. What was it like for you when you got that call, jumping in there and be part of this bantamweight tournament on short notice?
Terrifying, man. 2 weeks notice against a stud, but I've been preparing my whole life for it, and I couldn't say no to the opportunity, and saw what happened. I came in there and kind of shocked the world. Not kind of, I did.
Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Pawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers can be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Critical games tonight, no question, in the National Basketball Association. We're going to bring in Dexter Henry from the New York Post to break it all down for you. Dexter, great to have you back here. All right, so let's dive in here. The Houston Rockets need a win tonight. Got to have a win tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern against the Golden State Warriors. It's evident at this point, Dexter, Warriors probably the better team in this series. So the question is, can Houston pull this one off to extend it?
I think they can. I like the grit and fight from this Houston team. I like them to get it done tonight. It looks like the odds makers like that as well, too. Favored by 4 points. But I understand why you're saying what you're saying, Craig, where there isn't a lot of confidence. When you look at the Warriors and how they've won, they were able to win Game 3 without Jimmy Butler. I thought that was a huge win in the series. Then they showed a lot of grit in Game 4, getting some huge defensive stops right down the end. Houston's got to be on fire from the start. They've got to be good offensively. The problem with them as a team is you really don't know who their go-to guy is late in games. It's been Alperen Sengun, and he played fantastic in Game 4, and that still wasn't enough. There hasn't been another guy that stepped up. Jalen Green has been inconsistent. We've seen some things from Jabari Smith at times. Fred VanVleet has struggled with a shot. They need a consistent offensive display. They've been solid at times defensively, but they've got to be more consistent on offense. But I think they find a way. I like this young Houston team to fight back, get a win in Game 5. I do not think it'll be easy, though. I think this will be another tight game, but I think Houston finds a way to pull it out late.
Yeah, you mentioned Jalen Green. I mean, he's the guy that he needs to be the Brunson of the Knicks in the fourth quarter here. He has not been that. Do you like any of these props here? By the way, 16.5 on the points, 2.5 threes made, 3.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds. Gosh, like if you're thinking, Dexter, that it's still not going to be easy, then I'm guessing you don't love any of these overs either, correct?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't really love any of them. To be honest, like it's not one I'd be like, oh man, you could go get this. I think if you go over the 16.5 points, maybe that's your safe one. But could I see Jalen Green under that? Sure, I can. Maybe a play I would like is I think the assists were at 2.5. Maybe that's something you could do there if the Rockets have some good ball movement. That's probably the one I might be the most confident in. Go over the 2.5 assists. But the rest of those, I could see them all going under. So I'm not really confident in the Rockets' offense as a second scorer with Jalen Green. They need help on the perimeter. I think this is something you're going to see talked about with the Rockets a ton in the offseason. Can they go make a play for Devin Booker? Is it somebody else for them? They need another perimeter scorer to help Alperen Sengun.
Back against the wall game for the Los Angeles Lakers. Dexter, are we going to be talking about the Timberwolves after tonight moving forward? Because they've been the better team in this series. Not particularly close. Odds makers are telling us another game will be had. Lakers are 5.5-point favorites, but the total, as I see here, Dexter, I find interesting, 209.5, especially for the Western Conference. This is fairly low. They just haven't gotten several contributions as the Lakers. They're like 6 players deep. That's about it.
Yeah, I found that line, very interesting in terms of the total points. Look, this is a spot I don't see LeBron James and Luka Doncic and the Lakers losing here. I think especially because they've got this game at home. However, I have not been impressed with them, particularly defensively in the series, and a lot of that has been because of the way that the Timberwolves have been able to attack Doncic over and over. He's got to be better defensively. That was a knock on him. That was a knock from Nico Harrison. I'm not saying that Nico Harrison was right. Just saying he might have had a point about the defense there. That's all I'm saying. However, the Lakers, if they're going to win this game, you can't do it with 5.5 players, 6 players, Craig. That's not going to get it done. JJ Redick's got to trust his bench a little bit more. You cannot do that with a team that has Luka Doncic and his conditioning issues. LeBron James is 40 years old. You can't be having him out there that minutes. I think Redick manages the minutes a little bit better tonight. I think the Lakers will get a spark from the team at home. So I like the Lakers here. I like the Lakers to cover here. 5.5 being the line. I think they cover here, and I think the Lakers win and force us back to Minneapolis for Game 6.
Yeah, Dexter, is it good for sports if Giannis leaves Milwaukee? Is it good or bad? I'm still trying to figure this out. Like, I'm in a market where, the baseball team that I cover is considered a small market team, the football a little bit bigger, and the NBA too. And something about sports tells me that for the media rights and TV, yeah, it'd be great if Giannis left. But for everybody else, him leaving Milwaukee, I don't know that they'll ever get a player like that again.
And it was so long, since they had a player with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if you want to look at it before Giannis got there. But here's the thing. The best thing for Milwaukee, though, is to trade Giannis because they're cooked. It's over with this run of this team. Dame is hurt. He's not going to play next season with the Achilles injury. Giannis has literally no help around him. So it sucks for Milwaukee, but it's a great thing they got that title, right? Because if they didn't get the title, it could be a lot worse. But I think for sports, you'd like to see these stars stay in small markets. But I think for Milwaukee, the best thing is actually for Giannis to leave on so they can get the biggest haul back and they can move forward as a franchise.
That's a great point, Dexter. Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. Talk Hawaii up next. Don't go away.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number one, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number two, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers can be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyzed the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Gart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Pat Evans is with us from Legal Sports Report. The biggest sports betting story of the day has nothing to do with the spread in the NBA or baseball or hockey or anything else. It has to do with the state of Hawaii. They tricked us, Pat, for a couple weeks. We got all this good news. Hey, maybe sports betting coming to Hawaii. Governors, mayors saying, hey, let's bring it on. Then they bring it in front of the house, and it's like, nope, we're not doing it. What happened?
Well, yeah. So basically, we entered the session, and there was no expectations for Hawaii. It's one of 2 states without any form of gambling with Utah. And, in the past, sports betting legislation has gotten maybe past a committee. And I think that happened one other time. And then besides that, it just kind of stalled out as soon as it was introduced. Well, this year, it got through multiple committees in the House, and then passed the House, then went to the Senate, passed multiple Senate committees, then passed the Senate. Now, what happened was in the initial House discussion on Representative Daniel Holt's bill, there was a proposed 10% sports betting tax and a $250,000 license fee. And that was kind of a point of contention for some lawmakers. And they said, you know what, let's strip these out. Those might be a little too low. We should send this forward and just keep discussing this. Well, as soon as it got to the Senate and before it went to the Senate floor, they reintroduced those exact figures, figuring, okay, well, they don't have the figures and we might as well put theirs back in. Okay, let's pass it as a full Senate and send it back to the House. Well, the House said, wait a second, we removed those. And so they did not concur to the amendment. It went to a conference committee, and there was no agreement was able to be made before a deadline of last Friday. And because of that, it's dead for the year, which is wild because it made so much progress, so much surprising progress. It was, definitely a Cinderella story that seemed too good to be true. And ultimately it was because, even as it was going to the conference committee, Governor Josh Green said, hey, I'm for this. It looks like we've got okay protections in place. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's bring something that's already happening in the shadows. Let's bring it into the light and use it to make some money for the state. But yeah, so a lot of progress clearly was made this year, even if it didn't get to the finish line. So I think we'll go ahead and look at maybe even a couple more proposals aside from Representative Holtz, because he's been the champion the past couple of years with proposals. And so we'll see that. A work group was also started in the legislature this year. So they're going to look at legalizing gambling. There's other issues. We've had there was a casino bill of maybe putting up a casino in Honolulu. And so there's going to be a work group that kind of studies it, maybe better informs an effort next year with maybe a, agreed upon tax rate and license fee, and maybe it gets off to an even stronger start next year. So I think, while it is a disappointment that maybe Hawaii for the industry and even Nebraska, as we talked about last week, which also faltered for 2025, 2026 could be a decent year for a couple of these states that, otherwise we were kind of shaking our head at, saying, well, that might never happen.
Yeah. Well, you can read more about this over at legalsportsreport.com. Also, a new post from the guys, our friends over at LSR, about the potential next state if Hawaii is not it. Pat, we're guessing at this point, but it seems like at least you're intimating here that it's time to pivot over to maybe Oklahoma. Is that the next state to watch?
I think that is definitely the next state to watch. I think as we were entering the year, nobody really had, obviously no one had Hawaii. People were looking at Texas. Maybe we can get done in Texas, but that, of course, has fallen completely apart. Not that there were high hopes. Nebraska, that online expansion was a thought and a glimmer of hope. And yeah, Oklahoma kind of was another one of these states, kind of like Hawaii. I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. There's been so much disappointment between the relationship of Governor Kevin Stitt and the tribes. And the tribes in Oklahoma, of course, they pay for tribal exclusivity and gambling, and they have a say no matter what. And there's been a few things that have happened in the past that have just kept that relationship, the tribes and the governor, at odds. And we've even had legislative leadership in the past say, listen, if this doesn't work out soon, we're going to have to take over compact negotiations from the governor. Now, that hasn't happened, and in the past couple of years, we've had several sports betting proposals come through. That includes this year, which Representative Ken Luttrell put forward 2 bills with language from the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association that they're okay with, that gives the tribes exclusivity. And, as that's moved through, Luttrell actually passed legislation in 2023 through the House, and it fell on the Senate and just fell apart. This year, he got it through the House. It went to the Senate, and it has now passed a Senate committee. So the first time ever in Oklahoma, a sports betting bill has passed a committee. Now, this is where it gets weird. From the very start of the session, Governor Stitt has said he will veto any sports betting legislation that gives exclusivity to the tribes. He put forth a plan back in 2023 that he continually says, this is the plan I want for the state, that would open up commercial licenses, state-issued commercial licenses. So the tribes are not okay with that. So there's this thing. So one of the bills he can certainly veto, and that's all well and good, and there probably isn't the support to overturn that in the legislature. But there's another bill that would, if that fails, would then go to the ballot in November. So Oklahomans may ultimately get a say in whether or not sports betting becomes legal in Oklahoma, possibly as soon as this November. Stitt cannot veto that, from what I've read locally. I'm not super familiar with the Oklahoma legislative laws yet, but he can simply set the referendum date, so he would get to choose when they get to vote on it. But so it looks like there's enough momentum in Oklahoma that, yeah, sure, maybe an actual bill that just straight legalizes it doesn't happen. It would just go to the voters. It's something that happened back in 2003 when lawmakers didn't want to make the definitive say on whether or not to create an Oklahoma lottery, but they sent it to the voters back in 2003, and they voted to approve a lottery. So we'll see what happens. Of course, anything can happen in the legislative session. But yeah, another state that kind of looked like it probably wouldn't happen this year, but now there's more hope than maybe we would have said a couple of weeks ago.
All right, fair enough. Let's end with the news from Michigan, Pat. More cease and desist for the sports prediction markets. This is like really a mixed bag. It's sort of incredible. It's just like legalizing sports betting state by state. Each state seems to have very different views on companies like Kalshi and some of these prediction markets. Las Vegas in particular is allowing them to operate. Some are as well, but Michigan's one of those states that are not.
Michigan is going all in the last year or so of just saying, if you're not licensed and regulated through the state, you cannot operate here. Most notably this week, they sent or announced they sent cease and desist letters to sportsbetting.ag and BetOnline. And that's just the latest in a string. They've sent more than 20 cease and desist letters in April. And that's on top of all the activity they've done the last year, which started with a cease and desist letter to Bovada, the offshore giant. But since then, they've sent more than 40 of these cease and desists to a number of offshore sports betting, online casinos, sweepstakes operators, that they just say, you know what, you're not licensed, so you're not legal. You're playing with our residents, and this isn't okay. And so we'll see what happens. They did admit they're investigating the sports prediction markets, including Kalshi. They sent a letter to the CFTC saying they have questions about it. They have not yet sent a cease and desist letter to those prediction market operators like some states, Nevada, New Jersey, have. So we'll see what happens there. But they are definitely very active in the cease and desist game when it comes to sports books and online casinos.
Definitely the case, Pat. As always, appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for appearing on NewsWire today.
Yeah, thanks as always, Craig. See you next week.
All right, Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. By the way, read all of the discussion points that we bring up here on the show over at LegalSportsReport.com. Coming up, it is the Run for the Roses. It is the Churchill Downs event of the year, the Kentucky Derby. Now, we're going to have a lot more on the race and how you can catch our exclusive coverage courtesy of Daily Racing Form and SportsGrid with Rich Rosa next.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number one, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number two, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers can be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyzed the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Gart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great exclusive coverage coming your way, courtesy of Daily Racing Form and us here at SportsGrid and SportsGrid TV with the Kentucky Derby going off this Saturday late afternoon. Let's bring in Rich Rosa of Daily Racing Form. What an exciting time it is for horse racing enthusiasts, arguably the best weekend of the year at Churchill Downs in Kentucky. Rich, great to have you back here on NewsWire again.
Great to be back. It's like Christmas time. This is the most exciting week in our game. This is when everything all comes together. Everything that we've been talking about for 4 or 5 months since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile comes true this weekend at Churchill Downs. It's going to be a great race. Looks like the weather's going to clear. We're going to have a good Saturday and just a great field. And it's very competitive, even though there's a kind of heavy favorite. But let's see how it all goes.
Yeah, you never know, and we've seen that before in horse racing. Generally speaking, the heat starts coming now, and the Oaks race is coming. I know. Any particular before we get into our coverage here and how certainly we're going to have partner up, especially Saturday. I know for the big race. Tell me a little bit about any scratches or any news out of Churchill Downs. The weather I saw 2 days ago was a little bit of a concern for rain, but as you said, it looks like maybe we'll escape that.
Yeah, it looks like on Friday we might have some rain and then hopefully dry out for Saturday. But we've had rain before. It's May in Kentucky. It could rain at any time, and it frequently does. But we're hoping for a dry, sunny day, and hopefully everybody comes out of the race well.
All right, so Saturday morning, I know normally I'm on the air here, Rich, but we got a great show coming for you here with Daily Racing Form and a partnership here with SportsGrid with Barvana. And us. And so tell us more about different ways that people can get involved and certainly watch. And we're really excited to bring it to you this week.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Barvana first. So Barvana is a company that provides in venue like restaurants and bars and gyms and fitness places. And they provide a screen so that you could watch something as you're doing something. So it's silent. So we partnered up, SportsGrid, Barvana, and Daily Racing Form partnered up to provide news and information preceding the Kentucky Derby. So we're going to have live odds. We're going to be showing information about the horses. We're going to be putting in some selections and bets. So if you're sitting at your favorite place and you see it on the screen, you might have some interesting information to go take and wager on. And we're doing that together. Again, Barvana and SportsGrid, and I think it's the first time we're doing this, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait to see everything this week, and especially considering the fact that I think people, Rich, forget that even though maybe the Kentucky Derby sort of sneaks up on people, it is the most bet horse of the year, which means some monster payouts is always coming.
For sure. It's been the last few years, our payouts on our pick fives and pick sixes, which is our version of a parlay, have been in the couple of $100,000 range, on some of these days. So you could see back in last year in 2022, we had a six-figure payout. So the way that this works as a pick five bet is you're taking the winner from 5 different races, and you can use multiple horses to get there, which means that you multiply each race by each other race by the amount of the bet. So look at last year, $320,000 on a 50-cent base wager. So if you nailed it exactly, which nobody does, everybody uses multiple horses and picks, maybe a couple of $100, maybe even a couple $1,000 ticket. But it's our version of a parlay, and it has extraordinary payouts on days like this when the pools that people share are enormous. And you're talking again about a couple of $100 million being bet on the Kentucky Derby day, and on those particular races, if the long shots hit and you have them on your ticket, you could cash an extraordinary amount.
Yeah, there's also, Rich, this time of the year, a lot of novice horse racing enthusiasts who become experts very quickly here. But I know you guys over at Daily Racing Form put together value line odds for the race. Tell us how that works.
Sure. So David Aragona, who is our line maker, and he's also the line maker for the NYRA circuit. We think he's an expert at looking at a horse field and determining what the odds are going to be at the end of the race. And what he's done is he's put out his version of what he thinks the value line for that race is. So take, for example, journalism 3-1 on the morning line. He has journalism at 5-2. So he thinks maybe that's where the value lies in terms of journalism. So journalism is going to be our post-time favorite. Pretty much undisputed. I think everybody across the board believes that. But favorites don't always win. It's a 20-horse field. There's a lot of randomness that happens. You need to get the right trip. Things happen in a race. Sometimes you don't find your spot. And then the other horses win, which is why we've had quite a few long shots the last few years.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think it could happen again this year. You never know. Before we let you go, Rich, certainly I know there are a lot of smart folks over at Daily Racing Form who are going to share their opinions with us Saturday morning exclusively here on SportsGrid. Your staff has put
Thursday
together some
too.
selections.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Thursday. Okay, Thursday too.
Thursday,
Awesome.
Thursday, we're going to do the Daily Racing Form Kentucky Derby preview on SportsGrid. It'll be on from 1 to 3 p.m. It's going to have Gina Bacola, Alexa Zepp, and a whole host of guests. We have a great lineup, and we're going to repeat that Saturday. Except we're going to have a brand new half hour at the end that's going to basically tackle, what's going on from Friday to Saturday. So I think it's going to be great. If you're up 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, we'll have you all set.
Your pick, Rich. Who your pick to win it all?
Yeah, I like Grande in this race. Lightly raced, I think Grande fits the kind of profile that wins the Kentucky Derby. A little off the pace. I think this race is, everybody will tell you has a lot of speed in the race, so it looks like they're going to go fast early. I think the real speed horses in this race, like Rodriguez, are a really good angle to finish second. So I see those horses frequently tire out just in the stretch and get beat, and I think a horse like Grande could be there. I put him to win. I also have an exacta pick there that includes some of the speed horses, Citizen Bull Rodriguez, and another horse, Baeza, who I hope draws into the race. You don't hope that anybody scratches, but if anybody scratches from now till then, Baeza is the number 21 selection and gets into the race. So there's a $100 ticket. You could carve that up, make that a $10 ticket. You could do whatever you want with it, but that's my $100 bet for the Kentucky Derby.
All right, Rich. Great stuff as always. We'll catch the show tomorrow and Saturday. Thanks for coming on.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Malaysia Puwali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number 1, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number 2, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers could be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum in the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyze the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Gart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We end with some last licks, some commentary here on what happened with the Pacers and Bucks last night, in case you missed it. A good gesture from Luka Doncic of the Los Angeles Lakers, and a whole lot more. We'll tell you what's coming up next here on SportsGrid as well. Let's end the show with some last licks. You know, the more I'm reading of this story, the more I'm sort of seeing here that it's possible. Now, again, I don't know this to be fact, and I'm just watching what everyone else is out there as well. It seems like maybe Giannis somehow precipitated some discussion between him and Tyrese Halliburton's father. It's very bizarre here, and I'm going to have to let this play out before I make any judgments here, because after the game ended, in case you missed it, Tyrese Halliburton's father ran on the court, met Giannis halfway on the court, mid-court, and just started like yelling at him. I mean, what could possess anyone to do this, let alone at the end of a game, and let alone like rubbing it in the face of Giannis at the end? Very bizarre. Needless to say, a lot of people are taking Giannis's side here because that's just all we saw at this point. And maybe, by the way, it was not provoked or anything. Here's Giannis's side of it after the game.
Losing a game, emotions run high, having a fan, which at the moment I thought he was a fan, but then I realized he was Tyrese's son, which I love. Tyrese, I think he's a great competitor. He was his dad, sorry. Coming in the floor and showing me his son a towel with his face. This is what we do. This is what we effing do. This is the F we do. This. I feel like that's very, very disrespectful. You know, my dad, if you guys go and ask and learn, my dad's not with us no more. My dad used to come in the family room and was the most respectful person ever.
I mean, this is all well said by Giannis, and he's one of the most likable guys in the NBA right now. To me, if there's no other side to this story, then Tyrese Halliburton's dad can't be allowed to go back to NBA games like that again. Or, I mean, he can be allowed back. He just can't be courtside, if that is the case. If there's more to it, I'd love to know, because it's really weird that the guy would just run on the court and do that. I feel like something else have had to have happened here, but we'll see in the future. Bigger story now is what happens to Giannis with his future in Milwaukee. All right, Luka Doncic doing a nice thing for Los Angeles Lakers fans and the community as well. I was not aware that Kobe Bryant's statue of him and his daughter honoring them outside the arena was basically damaged or vandalized. I had no idea. I mean, honestly didn't know. But either way, he's already making a big part of the LA community by doing what he's doing here, which is making a donation to get this thing fixed and corrected. Now, why in the world anybody would vandalize a Kobe statue with his daughter, I have no idea, but that essentially is the story in life. You can't figure out people. They do crazy and stupid things. But Luka stepping up to make sure that this gets fixed is great. I believe the number was it 5,000, Frank? I think $5,000 to get this fixed. So that's, honestly pennies for him, but regardless, it's the gesture that means more about this. Okay, so count this one for me as the bizarre, as somebody who covers a Major League Baseball team here in South Florida. The Orlando Dreamers. Have you ever heard of these people? I had not until yesterday. They're a group that are pursuing a Major League Baseball franchise, folks, for the city of Orlando. Have announced a significant financial commitment totaling $2.5 billion, including $1.5 billion earmarked for acquiring a team and $1 billion for building a stadium. And the story goes on here to say that this is maybe separate from what's going on in the Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg area, with a new ballpark being built potentially for the Rays. I mean, that seems crazy to me to have 3 Major League Baseball teams in Florida when, quite frankly, the attendance figures have not been great in Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, or even here in Miami. So what leads them to potentially believe that in Orlando, all of a sudden, people are going to be flocking to baseball? Now, if if this is the end of the line for the Rays and they're moving to Orlando, I still don't love that idea, because I would feel bad for the fans there in the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area. But that would make a little bit of sense here. But to have 3 teams in Florida, 3? I mean, strange to me. And by the way, the stadium, the renderings of it at least show that there's a clear roof on this thing. You're going to have a roof on any stadium in Florida. I got news for you. You cannot have an open air stadium in Florida. All right, that'll do it for the show. Thanks again to Luke, and for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. Smiley's coming up next, and we'll be back here tomorrow after Pharrell, Game Time Decisions, In Game Live, and Sports Rage. Thanks to Dexter Henry and Rich Rosa, as well as Pat Evans. See you tomorrow.